This conference will now be recorded.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, man.
No problem. The local priority is where there's basically just showing that it's a local priority, that there's prior planning, if there's public meetings, anything that shows that the community is really engaged in making this happen. It's not just something that someone kind of pulled out of a hat, that it's been thought about for a while. Readiness is an engineering, more or less, type of conversation. It's trying to identify anything that will make it difficult for the project to move forward. This is similar to that feasibility conversation I've mentioned. But types of questions that might get asked are like, is there a rail line that's going to be impacted by the project? Things that make it so it's more difficult to move forward in a timely manner. And economic impact, that's basically whether this is likely to help the economy in the area. I will say projects that are in distress or at-risk counties do get some points by default here. We're trying to prioritize that in our scoring. But communities that make an argument about economic impact can also get those points as well. So this is looking at disadvantaged populations or just general economic growth in the area. I think that's the last real substantial slide. Camilla, if you could go ahead and I think it's just So I am happy to answer any questions here. That's always an option. I will say though that for a lot of project-specific, community-specific questions, it's best to follow up kind of offline. You should have my email address and phone number there, but if you don't, I'm happy to put it in the chat. Do feel free to follow up. I'm happy to do one-on-one consultations, whatever is necessary to help you through this process. But otherwise, if you have any questions, let me know.
All right, no questions? Okay. I guess we'll go along to the next.
Okay, the next item on the agenda was motion for MAG letter of support for, what are we talking about, Bill?
The letter of support for the letter of support for the community's multimodal grant. Let me see.
Is that
No, that's not the next one. That's not. I'll bring the slide up. I'll just skip. I'm gonna bring the presentation back up. Okay, so we're on number 5. You see it, Mayor Taylor?
I do.
All right. Oh, well, the community, so you want to go ahead and I'll call them then.
Okay, excuse me. All right.
Okay.
I'll let you go ahead and call them out.
Okay. Okay, as Matthew stated, the communities are Atoka, Covington, Falls, Henny, LaGrange, Mason, and Ripley. We'll go in their order. Like I previously stated, it's roughly a 3-second delay. Bear with us. And the first we have up is Atoka. I think we have Ben Ledsinger presenting for Atoka.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll pull up the presentation in just a moment.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Sir.
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Thank you.
All right, your presentation is coming up shortly, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to do this today and to listen to these projects being presented. So thank you, Camilla, for putting this together.
No problem, sir. All right, then, on you.
So our project is a pedestrian lighting and bike project along State Route 206. Go ahead, Ms. Camilla, and go to the next slide. State Route 206 has several names, but it runs basically through the heart of Atoka and cross into Munford. And you can see that we have several projects planned, but the one in red is the one that we are submitting for the multimodal grant this time. And it is in the heart of the oldest section of Atoka. So, and what we're doing is these areas have a lot of pedestrians and they walk over to 51, go to church, to go to the grocery store, the post office, to do business at town hall. And right now we don't have any sidewalks or pedestrian lighting or bike lanes along that section of the corridor. We are bringing it down to Main Street and connecting Nancy Lane Park as an opportunity to just like a safe way to get over to the park as well. Next slide, please, Ms. Camilla. So as I said, what we're planning on doing are sidewalks, bike lanes, ADA improvements, and then we're going to add pedestrian lighting along the route. So that's what we're looking to do. Next slide, please, ma'am. This is kind of the existing condition along the route. Got very narrow shoulders and no sidewalk whatsoever. And as I said, we do have pedestrians, so that's kind of what it looks like and what we're hoping to address. Next slide. All right, guys, so that's it in a nutshell. I know that was very high level and fast, but I wanted to be respectful of everyone's time. Are there any questions about Atoka's multimodal access grant project submission?
No, sir. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, next we have up is Covington, I believe Mayor Hanson.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Camilla. Thank you very much. And RPO members, thank you for your time. Just a few minutes of your time this morning. Thank you for that, to briefly hit some high points about our multimodal application for our Highway 51 connector. Actually, this is phase 2. We are set to begin work soon along Highway 51 for the beginning of phase 1 for the sidewalk connector from Tatlock to the Tennessee College of Applied Technology here in Covington. And we are working now to continue with our pedestrian and cycle access along Highway 51 here in Covington. Phase 2 would take it from the Tennessee College of Applied Technology up to Mueller Brass Road. Next slide, please, Camilla. So if you all have driven through Tipton County, you all know that we don't have interstate access. So Highway 51 is our major north-south thoroughfare through Tipton County and the city of Covington. Around 35,000 cars a day travel the highway through the city, and we currently don't have safe pedestrian access along the highway. And so it's my vision to extend and provide that safe pedestrian and cycle access from Tatlock, where the sidewalk currently ends, further south, and I eventually want to have that access, pedestrian access, to Dyersburg State Community College, the Jimmy Nafee Center here, as well as the Tipton County Public Library. So phase 2 kind of gets us further south in that direction. You all will see the map there. Phase 1 again is in progress. Phase 2, the project of work in phase 2 includes the construction of that continued multi-use path further south along Highway 51, including landscaping, drainage, guttering, and as well as buffering for vehicular traffic and pedestrian crossing improvements. So the goal of the project obviously focuses on safety first and then connectivity. We want our pedestrians and cyclists to have safe access along Highway 51 to our educational opportunities, including, as I said, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology and eventually Dyersburg State Community College, Jimmy Nafee campus, and the Tipton County Public Library, Baptist Hospital Tipton as well, along the Highway 51 corridor that's between PCAT and Dyersburg State. So safety is priority here, and this provides that safe access to the City of Covington South Fire Station on Mueller Brass, as you see there from the map. And it also enhances connectivity continues our 2015 multimodal project further south and makes those essential connections for our residents to retail, education, health, and public services, and eventually long-term to Dyersburg State. So we're excited to make application for phase 2, and we certainly appreciate the RPO's influence in getting this approved, and we appreciate TDOT's willingness to entertain our application. So at this time, next slide, Camilla, I'll take any questions. You see that several pictures we've taken through the years of pedestrians that are traveling the highway very unsafely. You see the picture there on the left indicates a person pushing a baby stroller. This project, phase 2, continues that 3,400 foot, 10-foot wide multimodal path. Total project costs a little shy of $1 million, $999,860. And again, the overall goal is to increase not only safety but connectivity along our major traveled north-south Highway 51 through the city. So certainly happy to entertain questions this time and appreciate Chair Taylor and other RPO members. Appreciate your time this morning.
All right, Mayor, thank you. Very good presentation. Anybody got any questions before going to the next project?
Next, we have House, Mayor Pugh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Just
sir.
give me a moment to-
Okay, Camilla, I appreciate you getting this meeting together to let us present our cases. We have Highway 88 and Highway 210 going through Halls. Highway 210 is the main street that goes through town in front of City Hall, down through the middle of town, and we have sidewalks on probably 2/3 of that access. Some of them are not handicap accessible. On the south end of Highway 210, we have the dollar store, the grocery store, Richard Power and Light, banks, 2 medical clinics, and that's the area that the sidewalks are missing in. And we would just like to make application and complete the sidewalk work from the north to south end of Highway 210.
Any questions?
Mayor, good presentation. Anybody got any questions for the mayor before we go to the next project? Okay, Camilla?
All right. Next we have is LaGrange.
Good morning. This is Mayor Cowan, the town of LaGrange. Since its inception in October of 2016 with the application requesting funding from the multimodal grant, sidewalk activity has been a major headline of interest in LaGrange. Our town is very appreciative of the awarding of the multimodal grant for phase 1, which provided constructions of new sidewalks and streetlights on Main Street, and also sidewalks along 2 adjacent blocks of Highway 57. Generous private donations have enabled the completion of phase 2 and the walkability of the town developed in our master plan. Now, with the invitation to apply for phase 3, hopefully the sidewalk will be completed with the proposed TDOT 2021 sidewalk grant along Highway 57. The purpose is to propose improvements of an ADA sidewalk for a safe environment for pedestrians to walk along a 3,050-foot segment of sidewalk along Highway 57, also known as 3rd Street. This route passes through the town and will start at Chestnut Street, going east along Highway 57, and end at Union Street, which is currently the end of the existing sidewalk along Highway 57. This section, when completed, will result in the entire sidewalk along State Highway 57 located in LaGrange city limits being newly renovated, thus provide citizens, business patrons and tourists the opportunity for safe walking along this important stretch of sidewalks in our town. It's geared toward capitalizing on values of visitors to the community. LaGrange is unique in that the entire town is listed as a historic district of the National Register of Historic Places, also located on the State Highway 17 route. The existing conditions will show that the current sidewalk, which is approaching 100 years of existence, has deteriorated and resulting in the inability to provide pedestrian traffic because of varying hazards such as displaced areas, eroded areas, or natural deterioration. That should have been on another slide, Ms. Camila. The next slide. Connectivity need is route will provide access from many residential areas to historic public buildings, churches, town hall, post office, commercial, retail businesses, as well as the town civic center. Completion of this sidewalk segment will connect the downtown, city park, public playground, civic center, LaGrange Cemetery, numerous historical points of interest along Highway 57. The full project will provide the town of LaGrange residents and visitors over 2 miles of sidewalk, personal and recreational use. It's the objective of the town to promote interior sidewalk system that encourages pedestrian circulation that is safe for all users. This project is consistent with the city's plan to establish both street and pedestrian path connections between neighborhoods, historic sites, and to the town, so to create a connected community. One of the most important objectives to address with the implementation is the fact that Phase 3 is addressing the lack of safety that prevents safe connectivity to all areas of interest in our town, all due to unsafe sidewalk conditions existing along the sidewalk located on Highway 57. For example, pedestrians are walk along the shoulder of State Highway 57 in several locations in order to reach their destination as a result of non-ADA compliant deficiencies. In closing, as mentioned earlier, a master plan for sidewalk renovation specific to walkability was developed in August of 2015. Phase 1 was completed in April 2020 with a multimodal grant and the required matching funds. Phase 2 will also be completed this year with sidewalk donations, including a one-time sizable donation for one of the town's citizens, who is also a board member, that realized the importance of safe walking conditions at points of interest in our town, which includes the Civic Center and the LaGrange Cemetery. This application described in Phase 3 will definitely address the final major component of the master plan in 2015 and accomplish the safe walkability and connectivity to the town. We're prepared to meet the requirements of matching grants as far as the multimodal grant requirement is concerned. Appreciate your time this morning, Mayor Taylor and RPO committee, for this presentation. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Good presentation, Mayor. Does anyone have a question or any comments for the mayor?
So, Bill, you said this is Bob Turner. You said that's going to be the final stage of a 3-stage process to get your sidewalks brought up to date?
That is correct. Okay. There are a couple of sidewalks that are not along Highway 57, and down private funding can get those repaired, but we have stretched with our limited population to meet the present financial requirements to put in place the sidewalks we have. We're very gracious for the contributions that have been made by our citizens. It was amazing back in the establishing phase one.
I've seen the other ones, and it's amazing transformation downtown and everywhere.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, next we have Henny. Mr. Michael Shelton.
Thanks, Camilla. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, everyone, for the time today. I want to talk a little bit about the Town of Hennings application, and also a little bit of the background before the town decided to apply for the multimodal grant. They were awarded a community transportation planning grant and completed that project in 2019. That grant through TDOT was a corridor study for Main Street, State Route 209. So the project that was identified for the multimodal grant came from that corridor study. So I'll give you a little bit of information on that. Next slide, please. So existing conditions for Main Street. So that, again, that's State Route 209. And their main street is a 2-lane collector road that goes through the town. The speed limit's 35 miles an hour. One of the issues that's been identified is the speed. So, you know, part of the problem they have in Henning are high speeds through there. So we're looking at safety and how to fix some of those safety issues, how to bring pedestrians into the space, how to fix some of the accessibility issues and various things. But the speed was definitely one thing that was a focus in the corridor study project. So they've got some varying width on the lanes through there, and they have some on-street parking, some parallel parking that squeezes those lanes a little bit as well. But the street does have curb and gutter. It's an urban cross section for the roadway, and there are existing sidewalks. Next slide. Here's a few images of the existing conditions. You can see that there's no curb ramps there, so accessibility, ADA accessibility was a big issue that we looked at. How do we fix that? And then the signalized intersections, there's a signal at State Route 87, which is Graves Avenue on the north side of Main Street. And then there's this other signal down here at McFarland as well. So those signals are a bit outdated. You can see there's no crosswalks in those locations. So looking at improving those intersections as well as the overall accessibility and sidewalk issues. Next slide, please. So the proposed improvements, the image on the right is a plan view of Main Street, of the entire stretch from the north to the south end of the town. The red box represents what this phase of the project would be. So this would be a phase 1 project for the Main Street improvements. And that is because of funding. So to do the required improvements related to the sidewalk improvements, the traffic signal improvements, and those things, we feel like with the budget allocated through the multimodal grant, going for the maximum amount in the multimodal grant, we could cover about that northern piece. The goal would really be to go from State Route 87 at that signalized intersection there where there's the convenience store, and try to work south down to get to City Hall. And then the image on the left there shows the cross section of what the overall goal would be. And that northern section, it's not so dense and tight onto the street with the buildings. It's a little more open. So it's really going to be looking at access management. How do we fix some of those drive aprons so there's not these really big wide expanses of drives where pedestrians have to move across those spaces. So trying to really create safety there and just make that more functional for both pedestrians and the vehicles to create that safety. Next slide. And so here's some zoomed in plan views of what we're talking about doing. The image on the left is at the intersection of Graves Avenue, which is State Route 87 on the northern side of Main Street. As I mentioned before, the existing traffic signal is outdated, so it would be putting in new traffic signals that would have pedestrian crossing functionality. So really to make that intersection safer for the pedestrians, and putting in new sidewalks, accessible sidewalks. And then moving south a little bit, the image on the right, titled Access Management. So if you look at on the right side, those big open parking lots, those big open asphalt areas, right now that's just wide open for cars to kind of come in and out of those spaces. So it's really putting in some new curb and gutter and some accessible sidewalks to create some safe access points for vehicles, not to conflict with people walking through there. So again, that's the overall idea. During the process, if the grant is awarded and the town can move forward with that, the idea would be to look at the southern section as well when we're doing the survey, initial survey and the initial work to do the northern section, to start looking at the southern area as well. In that southern piece of Main Street, the buildings are tight on the street. There's some concerns with the structural capacities of those buildings, and so looking a little bit at that during this project, but starting the project on the north, ultimately moving south into a phased implementation. But thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. This is Ralph Moore. Do you anticipate traffic friction as one of the main components of slowing down traffic in that area?
Well, the idea to try to slow the traffic a little bit, some of this would narrow the roadway slightly, so we don't have wide unused asphalt. So a little bit of narrowing, and the correction with the traffic signals will slow that down, and the striping of the crosswalks as well. The addition of some landscaping along the roadway with trees where we can do that again, that helps to slow that traffic, that vehicular traffic a little bit. If that answered your question.
Yeah, I typically call it traffic friction, so it does tend to slow traffic down.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Michael Shelton. Next, we have Mason. Mr. Hall.
Good morning, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. I want to thank the board, Mayor Taylor, Ms. Kelly for this time this morning. Our multimodal grant application, we're applying for, try to put sidewalks along Highway 70, 79, which the businesses are down that highway and a lot of pedestrians do walk that area. We are hoping for safe travel for our citizens along the Highway 70. Of course, if the project has to be implemented in phases, the town of Mason has no problem with the phasing. Of course, this will be our first phase, our first project with TDOT, but we are willing to work any way we can to try to get this done to protect our citizens. Can we go to the next slide? Again, along Highway 70, the local businesses are there. We would also like to do some type of crosswalk from the bank over to the Bozo restaurant. It's going to aid in public safety for our citizens who walk along 70 Highway. Next slide, please. Again, we do want to consider the engineering modification of existing roadway and lane configurations, moderations of adjacent slopes, drains, and buildings, and the utilities that need to be moved, such as power poles, storm drains, in that row. If we go to the next slide, we may be able to see some of the things I'm talking about in that slide there. That's showing the preferred accommodation for the pedestrians, how sidewalks provide for the following: benefit public safety for citizens to walk along the highway, mobility and healthier communities, reduces pedestrian crashes by the vehicles. Next slide. That is the intersection of 59 or Main Street US 70 where we would like to start. If you go to the next slide. Okay, if you can look in these pictures, on the top, in the top left corner, that is the post office. There's a curb there in front of the post office, but actually no sidewalk. The one on the right is showing exactly how close Highway 70 is and these pedestrians. You can see kind of a little pathway where they've been walking along there. That is the area where we like to implement and put that sidewalk. It's just 2-3 feet off the highway actually. So see the danger there. If we go to the bottom, it actually shows an 18-wheeler along that same highway. There's just no room for the pedestrian to walk. Also on the next one is in the right bottom corner. There's a shoulder on the road there that they have been using as well to walk, and you can see some of the businesses in the back of the picture. Next slide. In conclusion, the Town of Mason Public Works Division is concerned with the safety, basically, of our citizens. We have been fortunate not to have any tragedies as a result of not having a sidewalk along Highway 70. However, as the transportation of goods and 18-wheelers continue to grow and use this route, it's likely to happen. We would appreciate if we are considered for this grant. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you, Ms. Kelly, Mayor Taylor, all of you for your time this morning. Any questions?
Good presentation. Anybody got any comments or questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Next, we have Ripley.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to present for just a moment here. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and members of the board, I've enjoyed watching these other projects. Very important for our area. Ours is we think the same. It is a sidewalk. We've in Ripley been able to improve our sidewalks with ADA and that type of thing. On the north side of our square, we frankly don't have good sidewalks there. So this phase one of this project is to complete a sidewalk interconnect between two public buildings, one of which is the Ripley Housing Authority, which is on the premises of our largest low-income housing, and link that with our election commission, which is two public buildings that have a lot of traffic. And that would also put curb and gutter in this position so that it would certainly be safer for pedestrians to walk.
One quick question. Just want to let Camilla know her screen is on our screen.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Let's move it. Let's move that screen in one, if you don't mind, please, ma'am. Okay. This is the aerial. Phase one is this phase, and it includes the yellow line, if you can see that, from the Ripley Housing Authority and our largest low-income housing group down to the election commission. Phase two, a future phase, would link that on into our square, would make it accessible to our post office, to the businesses around our square, to one of the largest churches that has a daycare, some of those public buildings that are now hard for our citizens to access. And it would include ADA, which the rest of our sidewalk improvements leading to the square and to the south are all ADA compliant. So it would be a good link there. We think it would certainly increase connectivity and community walkability and increase safety. Let's try another slide here. Well, I think it's just going to be a closer version, so we're fine there. It's a 5-foot sidewalk, ADA accessible, and the first phase will link those buildings. And there are a lot of commercial enterprises that there's no even provision for on either side of the road for the pedestrians to cross. So we think this is a good continuation of our sidewalk improvement and will be a good start to move to phase 2. Thank you for the opportunity to present this.
Yeah, and your next slide came up, Mayor. Sorry about the delay, but they see phase 1 and in the middle there. I think you have
a little closer view of where it is. As you can see, there's commercial enterprises on there, and we'll be able to give pedestrians access to those. And I think phase, the third slide, if you could, or the next slide, if you can pull that up, sums it up. Our goal is to continue expansion, increase connectivity, make it safer. And again, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize about my email coming up. We're still working with technology.
Absolutely. So a lot to these presentations today. Thank you.
Any questions for the Mayor Ripley? Great presentation, sir. All right, we'll go back to the agenda. Mayor Taylor, we're at number 6 for a motion.
All right, Ms. Camilla, that's your mom. We're looking for a letter of support. Can you tell me, are we looking for a general letter of support for all projects, or one for each individual one, or what?
A general letter of support for all the projects seeking a letter of support, a general letter of support.
Folks, y'all have heard what's being asked. To hear a motion to put a general letter of support for all the projects presented today.
This is Bob Turner. I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made. Or a second?
William Beasy, second.
Motion's made and seconded. Ms. Camilla, would you do the roll call vote real quick?
Yes, sir. Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Gaines? Mayor Gaines? No, he left, so let me see if he's still here. I'll come back to Mayor Gaines. Executive Huffman Proxy?
Yes.
Mayor Pugh?
Yes.
Mayor Neal Proxy, Robert Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Gaines? He's still here, so I don't know. Okay.
Sounds like we've got all in favor, none against.
All in favor. All in favor. Motion passed.
Okay, so a letter will be drafted and we'll get that sent out to TDOT shortly. Next item is a community transportation planning grant update. And that up to Camilla.
All right, next here on number 6, community transportation. Am I speaking? Community transportation planning updates. Okay. For the West Tennessee RPO, we have awarded Tipton County, City of Mumford, Town of Mason. You guys will receive updates from TDOT by the end of December, beginning of January, concerning the community transportation planning grant. All right, next, Mayor Taylor, we have myself. Let me go ahead. All right, give me a second to pull up, please. All right, as you guys know, I'm Camilla Kelly, the West Tennessee RPO coordinator. You know the 7 communities who are eligible for submitting a full multimodal application, Atoka, Covington Halls, Henning, LaGrange, Mason, Ripley. CTPG updates, as I stated, the city of Montford, town of Mason, and Tippin County, you'll receive updates beginning of January next year to ending of December this year. Transportation Alternative Program, as of now, I have not received any interest for the grant, but the deadline is oh, it says 10, I apologize. Yeah, well, yeah, it is 10/2/20, so that's this Friday, the deadline. And that grant program, so examples are bike lanes, bike parking, preservation of historic transportation building, and other. Once again, the deadline is 10/2/20. Didn't know October was that soon, but it is. So that's this Friday. Next, I want to say Halls was awarded the Rupee Grant for researching and striping plan in the area. Next, West Tennessee RPO meeting is December 8th. It is a project ranking meeting. As you guys know, these meetings are very important, as well as all our other meetings. So once again, it is on December the 8th, and there will be a ranking meeting. My information, email, contact me anytime. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Camilla, the projects we're going to be ranking, those aren't the projects we saw today, are they?
No, sir. Those will be the TDOT projects for the 3-year plan. That's on December the 8th. These just need the letter of support, and we'll continue from there.
All right. Will those projects be sent out ahead of time so that folks have an idea of what's going to be presented, or are we going to just do it all at the meeting?
That will depend on when I get that information from TDOT. As of now, we don't have it, so it might be traditionally it's presented at the meeting. Is there anyone from TDOT who would like to comment about that information? Because traditionally we presented at the meeting. So with us voting potentially virtually, we're planning on doing maybe a 30-minute pause where you guys can email me in the invitation your votes. But traditionally, we present that information at the meeting.
Hey, good morning, Mayor Taylor. Hope you're doing well. This is Antoine Hawkins. We're going to work with local programs to try to get the list early to have it possibly reviewed. I want to make any promises. We're going to try to work because we know that's always something that will help to actually have an opportunity to review prior to ranking. So we're going to work on that. But thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the comments.
You're welcome.
Ms. Camilla, this is what we got next.
All right. Let me go back to the agenda, Mayor Taylor. There you go. We're on number 9 and 10. Mr. Hawks from TDOT just made a few comments. Do you all have any more comments?
Yes, I actually have a few comments. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Antoine Hawkins with TDOT's Office of Community Transportation. We have a few quick comments we wanted to provide to the board and the technical committee. One, we have a new director that's been hired and appointed. So we're going to have a new director in our long range planning division. It's Mr. Matt Meservey. He's going to start on October 19th. We're going to hope to have him speak at the December 8th meeting. So we're going to work on that. We know that coming in, especially during this time, schedules are busy. He'll be getting his feet in there, but we're going to aim to try and have him speak at that meeting. Additionally, we released a resurfacing list. It was released in July. We sent letters to all the counties and municipalities that was on the resurfacing list for 2021. If you have any follow-up questions or comments about the list, please send them to myself or the operations manager for the district, and we'll be able to answer those. In addition to that, I spoke to Mayor Taylor's question about the project ranking. So again, we're going to work on the project ranking and try to get that list out. If not, we'll certainly have project development in the meeting to answer any questions that there may be about the ranking list as we vote on it for the 3-year plan. From a programmatic standpoint, Camilla spoke on the community transportation planning grant. Again, we're finalizing the contracts with the consultant, and we're going to reach out to each of our 3 municipalities and county that received them, Mason, Montford, and Timpton County, for the kickoff. Look for that to happen early next year once we get everything finalized for the CTPG. But we're looking forward to getting those kicked off and get those plans started and completed for you. In addition to that, the Tennessee Department of Health has a Healthy Built Environment grant That deadline is October 29th. Again, this is for playgrounds, trails, and walking spaces. We know a lot of the plans may have walking trails identified, and this is an opportunity to possibly receive funding. Any questions on those, please reach out to Tim King. He's our regional healthy development coordinator for the Department of Health. So he'll be a great resource if you have any questions on possibly applying for that grant. And again, that deadline is October 29th. And finally, we have a couple of studies that are ongoing. The I-40 corridor study is ongoing. Currently, they're working on recommendations. We may have a presentation by December 8th, but if not, we'll possibly have just a virtual meeting where we give the updates and allow you all to have comments on the recommendations for the corridor study. And finally, our statewide active transportation plan study is ongoing. We have a focus group meeting tomorrow, so thank you to Mr. Visa for volunteering to be a part of the focus group. Again, we'll provide updates on the active transportation plan as they come out. So those are our few quick updates. Any questions for anything that I gave an update on?
No, I think that sounds like you covered pretty much all of it. Has anybody else got any questions quickly?
I just want to add to what Mr. Hawkins talked about, the Healthy Initiative grant that's due on October 29th. Of course, that's not under myself, the RPO coordinator, but I will say I've seen in other communities where that grant was sort of partnered with the Transportation Alternative Program to help out with some of the additional costs with the TAP program. So I have seen that where that grant was partnered with that. If anybody want more information about that, contact me.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Camilla, let's see, we're down to questions and discussions. Anything from the either technical members or the executive board we need to talk about?
$11 and 10. I mean 11 and 12.
Okay.
Other business.
Anybody got any other business we need to talk about? And is there anybody from the public on the call? Or does anybody have any messages from the public like they would like to pass on?
I just want to state, I'm sorry, Mayor Taylor. We don't have anyone on the public that I see, but I will say a few of you are online, but you have a couple of people in your room, like I know Mr. Bob Turner and Town of Somerville and probably Kenny. I will contact you so I can get all for attendance records to see the other person that's in the room with you, because my computer will only show one name, but I'll do that via email.
Okay, sounds good. Folks, I want to thank y'all very much for attending today's meeting. Some very good presentations. Wish everybody luck on their grant applications. And if there's no other business to be held today, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Very few.
A second?
Second.
Second. Name for the second person?
Ms. Turner.
Mr. Bob. Turner. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm still recording this morning.